Hey YouTube, what's up? This is Steven and welcome back. Alright, so you guys may or may not have heard, but if you're looking at this video, you probably heard already. Alright. um, Michael Vick, in he went on a television show, and on this television show they got on the subject of Colin Kaepernick. And Michael Vick said something to the effect of, I think that Colin Kaepernick should cut his hair. I think it would be, it may help him get a job in the NFL again, get picked up by a team, right? And, understandably, people were upset by this, particularly black people, right? Black people were upset by this, right? Because people kind of felt like it was sort of like a cosign to anti-blackness. It's like a passive cosign if you think about it, right? um Me and how I feel personally, I know some people are going to be going to feel a little some type of a way about this. It's not meant to be offensive, but I kind of understand where Michael Vick is coming from when he says this, right? In the sense of like, we all kind of maybe do things here and there to assimilate, right? I can understand that aspect of it, but the thing is, we as black people, we have to stay on code, right? White people, they know how to stay on code. Look at what happened to that young black dude in Greece. White people stayed on code. He was surrounded by white people. They stayed on code, right? you know, Again, it's a terrible thing what happened to that young man, by the way. I'm not, trying to diminish that, by the way. But I'm just saying. But in the case of Colin Kaepernick and Michael Vick, it's like, I personally feel like this is something that Michael Vick should have said in private. As we all have said things in private, right? This was a conversation, or not even a conversation, but this is a thought or an idea that should have been expressed behind closed doors. This should not have been said on a national platform, because on a national platform, like basically, when Michael Vick said that, he was passively supporting anti-blackness, right? He may have not purposely meant to support it. He may not have been actively even supporting it, or at least have meant to, but he did. That's the thing. He did. And there have been a lot of news stories about black natural hairstyles being attacked and ridiculed. Maybe not physically attacked, of course, but like people having issues with black hairstyles. Um, you know, Girls in school, being told that they need to do something with their hair and it's just natural. As well, uh, men with dreadlocks, right? People probably won't even hire you sometimes if you have dreadlocks in your hair. Some people have even, been able to either dismiss an employee and fire an employee because of it, or, at least maybe even prevent the employee from moving up in the company because, again, the dreadlocks being kind of like a look that represents blackness. A it's like a really like bold black, quote unquote black African look, right? You know, which I personally think is beautiful and very regal, right? As well as like a lot of our, hairstyles, and our looks, right? And as well, this really even sinks, hits even harder because, this is like, as far as like the afro is concerned, that sort of a thing, it's like, this is kind of like how our hair is kind of, it's like, this is home. And it's like, oh, you can't be home. You can't be your natural self. You need to change it up somehow, right? And also, like, black hair is very unique. It's very um, specific to us, right? Unique and specific to us. Like, there's sometimes I look at some people, and I'm not quite sure, like, what race are they? But, if you look at their hair texture, you can kind of tell, right? Because, again, that hair texture is kind of like unique. Like, you got to be connected to blackness in some way to have that hair texture, right? Most of the time, you got to be connected to, like, you got to have somebody in your family that's black, right? you know? So yeah, like our hair being like a very like strong marker for, blackness and Africanness, you know? So when people say things about our hair, you know, make comments, negative comments about our hair, put, our hairstyles into, their list of unacceptable hairstyles for, their employee manuals and all that sort of a thing, we probably, we take it to heart, honestly. Keep it real, as a community, I think we do, you know. Um, and as well, the years and centuries of, brainwashing that we received that, told us like, our natural hair texture is ugly, it's like unwanted, it's like you need to do something with that, right? You know, um, and a bit of a sidebar, but quick shout out to the black females because I noticed like lately a lot of black females have been embracing their natural hair texture, and I've seen both online, but also in person. I've been seeing that a lot more too. So shout out to the black females out there for embracing themselves, their natural hair texture, right? And as well, that's not a knock to the black women who perm their hair, wear weaves and wigs. It's not, it's all right. As I said, ultimately, do what works for you. Do what works for you. But back to subject though. Um, so yeah, I kind of understand where Michael Vick is coming from, but he should not have said those things on a national platform. Those ideas and thoughts should have been expressed behind closed doors, honestly. Because it's like saying, again, you're passively at least supporting anti-blackness when you say that, right? And Michael Vick, of course, as many people have brought up, like he has worn ethnic hairstyles before, he grew his hair out and had it in cornrows, so it's kind of like, it's weird though because it seemed like someone people have mentioned this, but it seemed like Michael Vick would seemingly be the last person to want to criticize Colin Kaepernick, and perhaps even on some level being able to relate to Colin Kaepernick, but for some reason there's a bit of a disconnect there. I'm not sure why that is, but there seems to be a disconnect, and I think I understand where, like, I may understand that disconnect because I think Michael Vick, he wants to stay in, the good graces, right? He doesn't want to go off script, right? So he wants to kind of like say he wants to make sure that he is coming off in a way that is not upsetting the establishment, right? Because Michael Vick still wants to do something, have some form of work, some form of income, right? But I just don't think this was the way to go about it, right? Uh, but Colin Kaepernick posted a interesting tweet. This tweet was not necessarily directed at directed at Michael Vick, but a lot of people are speculating that it is. I'll read his tweet. All right, and his tweet is interesting because he posts the definition of Stockholm's syndrome. And it's a bit of a lengthy definition, but let's read it. All right. The Stockholm Syndrome appears when an abused victim develops a kind of respect and empathy towards their abuser. All right. So, Cynthia G has mentioned this before, where she's like, she thinks like the black community in general has Stockholm Syndrome when it comes to white people. And I kind of think so, because we, like, look at this situation. Michael Vick is going after Colin Kaepernick. He may not be like maliciously doing it, because honestly, I really don't think he was doing it in a malicious way. I really don't. Honestly. I don't think I don't think he meant it to be malicious, honestly. But again, the way that this is set up, he's going after Colin Kaepernick, right? Saying he needs to change versus going after the system and saying the system needs to change or really not exist. But at least you could say it needs to lighten up on some things, honestly. But it's like who to go after, right? Because if Michael Vick went after the system, he would fall out of, I guess, the good graces that he's kind of in, where white folks didn't totally cancel his career because of that whole dog fighting thing. Honestly, if he shot down some black men, and got away with it, I don't think those same white people would really care that much. Honestly, they're like, it'd be another day for them. Honestly, if he were doing the same thing to black people as he was doing with them dogs, I don't see much of a protest about that. Let's see. Here's the next part of Colin's tweet. It was named after a bank robber in Stockholm. Let's see. It was named after a bank robber in Stockholm when a group of bank employees were held hostage and developed a strong sense of empathy toward their captors. Yeah, that's a little strange. But it does happen. When this traumatic event was over, they even defended their captors by not wanting to say anything that may endanger their captors' freedom. This usually happens because the victim sees the smallest act of decent behavior as an extracted event, which makes them see their captors as essentially good. Right? Again, black people and white people, right? We see it kind of like the smallest little inkling from white people, like saying a little something like, "Oh no, they're not all like that." There's some good white people out there, right? But as I personally have said, the problem with good white people is they're far too few and ineffective. That's the issue I have with good white people. If there were like a ton of good white people and they were really effective, then I would probably be like, hey, I'll probably be right along with the other black people cheering if they were actually effective, right? But I really don't see these good white people as being large in numbers and as well effective. I just don't see that. We get a little speck here and there, in black people, we so used to eating crumbs, just taking what anybody gives us. We just accept anything, honestly. You know, and that goes back to slavery too. All right. Next. This way, they leave aside all the negative behavior distinctions of their captors and focus on the positive ones. Right? Like they're not all like that. There's some good white people out there, right? Um, this syndrome is also called traumatic bonding or victim brainwashing. I think victim brainwashing kind of would make me probably a bit more sympathetic because I think there is a lot of brainwashing that happens with us, honestly. You know, some that we are aware of, and then some other brainwashing that we're not aware of. So I think if someone said they were a victim of like brainwashing, I think that would trigger more empathy in me personally. You know, but that's a sidebar. Let me get back to this. So that was a tweet that Colin Kaepernick tweeted, right? He didn't mention Michael Vick's name in the tweet, but a lot of people are speculating that it is in reference to Michael Vick. It could be, it could not be, right? Honestly, it could be just in general, but just because Michael Vick said what he said, and then Colin tweeted this tweet, some people are just making that connection. I can see why they would do that, but it could or could not be about him. But then again, you know what they say, right? If the shoe fits, wear it. Like if the shoe fits, wear it. All right. All right. So, Michael Vick posted a tweet also after Colin posted his tweet. All right. So I'm going to read through Michael Vick's tweet. All right. All right. So here is Michael Vick's tweet. Colin Kaepernick's hair has nothing to do with him not being on a NFL roster right now. Let's be clear. The thing is, though, in that when he went on that television show and expressed his thoughts and opinions, he said that that was a factor. And that could be a factor at least, right? Said he might want to think about cutting his hair, right? I noticed that Michael Vick has kept his hair pretty, he's been rocking the dark season, and ain't nothing wrong with that, it's not anything inherently bad about it, I don't think. But I do think black men in general kind of need to be a bit more aware when it comes to kind of like the politics of hair, because I think black men can kind of be a bit like, when it comes to black men and black women, it's like, oh, it's like these black men being like, oh, you black women need to be natural, and you black women hate yourselves because you don't wear your natural hair all the time. And it's like, okay, but let's flip it around. Like, well, you're rocking like a dark Caesar, that lineup isn't natural, right? The waves that you probably rocking aren't natural. You make sure to keep that hair cut really low, right? But people don't really flip it around. And also, I really think that that is sort of a way of assimilating, honestly. Make sure you keep that hair cut really low, right? Some dudes get haircuts like every 2 weeks to make sure that hair's cut really low. So no one really can see their hair really getting basically becoming an afro, right? Me personally, I've done my video on, my hair journey and my thoughts and experiences with my own hair texture and coming to appreciate and embrace, my natural hair texture. Like, I've done that whole video. I spoke about that whole topic, for 40 plus minutes probably, right? And like me personally, like I've worn a variety of different hairstyles. I've done, the dark Caesar. I've done the fade. I've done the afro. I've done even like faux dreads. Not like the extensions faux dreads, but like kind of like dreading your hair and like kind of like making it look give the effect of dreads, right? The waves. I've done the waves before. Um, you know, I oh yeah. Also, let's see, a wash and go. And made my hair like really curly, right? You know, I've also flattened my hair. Had it in the afro, but then flattened it down, right? So it kind of looks like my hair was cut, but it really wasn't. And also put it in like a ponytail or like a man bun. Like I've done like a lot of different hairstyles. Oh, I've also straightened it a couple of times too, right? So I've done like a variety of different hairstyles, right? And again, not to really try to make this about me, but I just, in this particular instance, I think my perspective probably would be a little helpful, right? you know, but for me, as you may have noticed, like I wind up cutting my beard off, right? And it was a combination of me wanting to change, but also because I recently went on a job interview and I felt like perhaps the beard might be a little bit too much. I think, it looks really good on me, and I've, received a lot of compliments about it. But, as far as like, you know, for, trying to, go out there and, you know, move up in the workforce and, that sort of a thing, it's like, it's something to think about because, like, well, I have to survive, right? And I have to survive, and I would like to thrive, right? And I'm not on the level of Michael Vick and Colin Kaepernick when it comes to money. Let's be real, like they could probably not work another day in their lives and be set. Me, on the other hand, if I don't if I don't work a day, that's going to affect me. Like if I miss a day of work, let alone a week, that's going to affect me, right? The average person is probably like a paycheck or two away from being homeless. To be real, right? Especially black folk. They love firing when they gotta fire folk. They be going after black folks first a lot of the times too, right? All right, but that was a sidebar. Let me get back to business though. My bad, y'all. You know, I try not to be so self-centered. But I just really think again in this situation, right? In this situation. All right. Let's see. Let's be clear. Okay, I'm back to reading Michael Vick's tweet, by the way. All right. Let's be clear. I only wish the best for Colin. I stand by what I've said about him being signed at some point this season to help a NFL club. I think he is a great kid who has a bright future, and I'm looking forward to seeing him on the field again. Trust and believe what I said was not in malice. Michael Vick. Yeah. And as I said, I know some people kind of did feel that it was in malice. I don't think it was like meant in malice. Not to say that, again, as we know, like it's not necessarily the intent, it's the result, though, right? But I will say that I don't think Michael Vick really. I don't think he was like maliciously going after Colin Kaepernick. Saying like, "Oh, you need to cut that old nappy, afro off." Like he didn't really say it like that. But I will say like Michael Vick saying those things on the national platform, it did, passively support anti-blackness, right? And as well, as I already mentioned, like our hair gets attacked like so much as it is. It's like, why add fuel to the fire? Why add to that, right? And it's not that. I mean, many of us have probably, thought about our hair in some way or another, and how it comes off, as far as like, going for job interviews, in the workplace and that sort of a thing, right? And I'm pretty sure we even probably have had conversations at one point or another, right? Again, like assimilating in order to survive, right? So I feel like, these thoughts aren't necessarily new thoughts. They've always probably been circulating in the Black/African American community, but it probably should have just stayed in the Black/African American community. It should not have been put out there like that. This should have been a conversation that Michael Vick had in private, either with Colin Kaepernick or just, amongst, his folks, his people, and not in public on a national platform, right? So, that is seemingly the end of the back and forth with the tweets, at least for the time being. Me personally, I don't think that. I don't think it's solely because of the afro that Colin Kaepernick has not been signed. Although I don't think the afro is helping. If he had worn the afro but not have done, the political stuff, he probably would be signed. Because it'd be like, oh, he just is wearing an afro. Okay, all right. Just like we got these dudes wearing dreads who be cooning, right? There's folks who wear natural hair and they be cooning, honestly. It's like, okay, we know them. We know we know them mentally. We know they're not going to go, quote unquote, off script, right? So they're safe. So we'll let them come in, right? And honestly, this may be sort of a blessing in disguise, depending on where Colin Kaepernick actually wants to go, as far as his activism is concerned. Because honestly, I really don't think that you can be like a straight up activist, and really go hard in the paint for your people and be a part of the system at the same time. It just don't work like that. I'm seeing this, recently, even like I noticed like the people who become like really successful, even on YouTube, oftentimes they have like, you ain't gonna see them, doing anything quote unquote militant, right? As far as like going hard for their people, you're not gonna see them doing it. Look at all the black YouTubers, the black folk on YouTube who are really popular, right? Oftentimes a lot of them are cooning. Shoot. It's like, there's a lane for like the beauty guru chicks, and then it's like the coon lane, and of course, there's other lanes too, but it's like it's like almost, it's kind of like white people vet black people. They kind of vet you before they really invest into you, right? Like they vetted Beyonce, right, before they really, uplifted her to like, superstar status, right? They made sure like, okay, she gonna stay on script. She ain't gonna really do anything that's, off script, right? I mean, look what happened at the Super Bowl, I mean, she's still more or less in like their good graces, even though she did kind of go off script with that. But no, it wasn't really anything that was extremely militant, though, right? But notice, like even then, they were like, "Wait a minute, no, we gotta put you in check. We gotta get you in check, Beyonce. We gotta let you know what's up, right?" And the video game guys, on YouTube. It's like you can't. I don't know. Like really, if your whole platform is kind of like more so about like your people and uplifting your people, I think you're only gonna go so far, honestly. You know, and that's not me saying it in like a negative way or anything, because I think that it's kind of good to be able to just be like, okay, this is where I'm at. This is how it's gonna be, and I'm good with not having white acceptance, white validation, white people buying into me, etc. Right? I'm good with that, right? I think that is a good thing, but I'm just saying, like, it's just something that you should take note of, right? Again, like just on YouTube alone, but also in like the entertainment industry, like any aspect where there is money involved, right? Name a militant rich black person, a black person who is like really successful, really rich, and is like straight up just down for their people, willing to call out white racism, etc. You don't really see that, honestly. Like the most we got at the moment, I guess is maybe like what, you know, Jesse Williams, Colin Kaepernick, does Beyonce count? Like, come on, And I'm not being shady to them, but I'm just saying it's like, that's as far as that's as much as we got so far, right? Because white people, they vetting these black people, right? I know like Harvey, aka Mr. Superboy 223, like he often says like they have like a psychological profile on the dudes that they draft into like the NFL and the NBA, the like sports teams and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm really like, I think he might be right, because I feel like they kind of know who to give these opportunities to, right? And Colin Kaepernick in his situation, he seemed like a perfect person to give this opportunity to, right? You know, he's black, but he's not, quote unquote, too black, like he's black enough, right? He was raised by white people, right? And seemingly, it would be like, oh, he's kind of like white people would be like, he's on our side. He's not going to go off script, et cetera, right? He's probably going to marry a nice white woman, etc. But somewhere along the line, Colin, I don't know how or why, but he got woke and he has gone off script. um, you know, One more thing I can sort of speak on and talk about before I end this video. I guess we can sort of talk about, the, you know, dark skin, light skin dynamic that I guess some people have spoken on, have mentioned, and, that we see, in play, um, you know. And I'll say this, what can I say about the light skin, dark skin thing? I think that there are militant dark skinned black men out there, definitely. But for some reason, it seemed like the ones in the public who really, like, the ones who are like in a position to really step up on like a national platform, I don't know. It just seemed like, for some reason, the dark skinned dudes kind of maybe hesitate for some reason. And I've sort of spoken on this previously in a previous video already. So I guess that would be like just pretty much rebuttaling, not rebuttaling, but just rehashing the same thing again and again. Um, but yeah, it's like, what made Colin Kaepernick do this? It's like he kind of could be just, as Lovely T said, just being comfortable being just biracial, honestly, and just, accepting, the privileges that come with being, half white, or, having lighter skin. But for some reason, I guess Colin Kaepernick didn't want to do that. Yeah. You know, but sometimes in situations like these, I sort of hesitate to talk about, dark skin, light skin, that sort of thing, because sometimes it can maybe come off in sort of a negative way. If maybe, if, I don't know, I just try to, be careful and, pick my words uh, really well when talking about this, because, it's a sensitive subject and, all that, you know. But another thing I'll mention, perhaps the bar is sort of lower when it comes to light-skinned people and, their activism, activism, and, being militant. Maybe the bar is sort of lower for them, right? It's like, perhaps it's like, oh, they're so awesome, and they don't even have to do that much, maybe. But maybe the bar is higher for darker skinned people. Like they have to do a bit more to be considered impressive, maybe. There's something to throw out there. You know. But let me bring this video to a close. I've gone on for long enough as it is. But long story short, black hair, Afro texture hair is beautiful hair. It's hair that's extremely unique to us. And you know, it's just very regal, very beautiful. Very black, right? So it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's something to wear proudly, right? You know, black hair is good hair, right? Nappy and happy rhyme for a reason, right? So, I guess the takeaway from this is like when you see someone with, see a black person with natural hair, at least in your mind, if not out loud, but at least in your mind, make a connection, right? And say, that's some good hair, right? See somebody with some like really long, thick dreads, that's some good hair, right? See someone with a big afro, right? That's some good hair, right? You know, heck, you see someone with some cornrows or any other type of like black African ethnic hairstyle, especially, right? That's some good hair, right? Your hair don't have to be lied, fried, dyed, or whatever laid to the side to be good hair. It can be good hair, just in its natural Afro textured state. All right. So, okay, now I'm really done. All right. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. Feel free to comment. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to give me a thumbs up. Feedback and support are extremely appreciated and extremely valued. Until the next video, adios and goodbye for now.